drifting lower.
Driving factor. Beyond the next year or so,
I think we are going to lose
most measures of
604
long-term
here.
expectations remain consistent with our 2% inflation goal. Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment.
What's everybody else looking at here?
With the labor market at or near maximum.
Oh man, I'm doing the best I can to not lose my mind right now. 13. Holy
Boeing flush.
At 4.25 to
No headline yet.
SRFM back up to 230
About $1
again.
almost.
Our holdings of Treasury and agency mortgage-backed securities.
Lots of sideways price action. Looks like BBAI recaptured 480.
To facilitate a smooth transition to
Needs more volume, so this can go higher.
We'll continue to determine the appropriate stance of monetary policy based on the income.
You can probably hear me say that a lot. Needs more volume. Needs more volume. Pony AI doesn't have that problem. They've got the volume. New highs now. Pony AI continuing to go higher. To 1271. This thing is just ripping.
Expectations of that level and thus of the related economic effects reached a peak in April and have since declined.
All right, I can't use my regular chart because I don't know, some stupid reason. Anyway, Ray, you were asking about potential swings here. We actually discussed a couple of these yesterday in happy hour, and we were able to tie in spots on the chart, support and resistance levels, and seasonality all into some of these. And we had really good seasonality and chart spots for both Home Depot and Lowe's. I had, there were moving averages here. I really don't want to re-add them and all of that. That's why I tried to go to the other chart. It's not cooperating with me. I'm sorry.
60 seconds.
13, if you have it there on your end, great. If not, just take my word for it, I suppose. Home Depot and Lowe's both set up for upside swings right now based on the seasonality and the chart spot and formation. 13, you were just talking about Lululemon. While I don't have the seasonality stats handy for it, we actually look like we have a similar setup here, especially if we can recapture this trend line.
Everything we do is in service.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Lululemon. I still think that it could potentially go lower, but I need to see some things happen before I think that we're going to get back up to 300. Getting back over that trend line that you have there, that's going to be the first thing. So I need to see that. With regard to Home Depot, this came very, very close to that May 10th, 2021 level that I pointed out when we were talking about this last week.
The latest FOMC statement described economic activity have to continue to expand at a solid pace, and you just reiterated
May
that
10th,
in your
2021 low
this morning.
I think that was the high.
In your view, is
was 345.69, so very, very close. Nice bounce off that. Now it's trying to recapture the 500-day SMA.
And you note that the labor market continues strong, the economy's at a standard pace, and you also referenced in your testimony that first quarter GDP initial react was also from front-end loading.
That swing is actually working.
To try to avoid.
Did hit 15, backed off of it.
Also, I
We're in
looked
this
at the Atlanta
consolidation
Fed
area.
GDP Now model, which forecasts GDP
That was a really
growth
nice
for the
move that we
second
had
quarter of this
yesterday.
year at nearly
Back tested the
4%.
trend line and the
with
200
core
EMA.
GDP
I'm sorry,
forecast at
SMA.
2%. Does that
We did
Atlanta
back off a
model
little bit
suggest a
today. Yeah,
recession?
you're right.
Yeah. But I
No, I would
think
say it doesn't.
about 475,
and
some
looking
470,
at
474,
AMD still going,
1470 to
yeah.
1475.
And Micron, and Intel.
The support area. We already hit 1470 earlier today.
I was looking
Let's see
back
if it
at
holds.
a Fed study that noted that up until March, tariffs have already been partially passed.
It's like all
through
these
consumer
names
prices,
starting
leading a
to
contribution of
leak
barely
lower.
1/10 percentage
The
point
nectar
increase
might
in
actually
core
curl up
PCE
though.
prices. And a Harvard study last week
Still got to
showed
get through that
prices had
15
only
EMA.
modestly
Yeah.
adjusted since the announcement.
INM, that
Finally,
went
the
down to
longer-term
4.
inflation expectations
There
remain
it is.
consistent with the 2%
So,
goal.
got to reverse here or this thing's
Governor
going
Waller
lower. And it looks
laid
like
out a
there's a seller that's
pathway
trying to
that
walk
allows
this
for
thing
rate
down to
cuts
the
provided
65
that
EMA.
Average effective tariff rates remain close to 10%, or I assume he means 10% or lower. The labor market remains solid. Prices continue
These names
to
looking pretty
disinflate.
weak.
So
Still
given
looking
that
for
data
nectar
I've
to do
outlined,
that
I'm sure data
recapture
that
the
you're
15
very
EMA that
familiar
we just
with.
mentioned.
For the economy to avoid persistent inflation,
Circle
you
almost,
concur with Governor
well, it's
Waller that there
about
is a
where it
pathway
opened
for
at
good
now.
news as it relates to
Beneath
the
250.
regulatory policies, the tax policies that I've discussed in
Pony,
a world with
1277.
lower tariff rates.
78.
So first, I wouldn't comment.
Still
on
pushing
the
higher.
policy,
1280 now,
advice
Pony.
comments
Looks like
one
this
way or the
thing
other, but
could end up
Those
getting
are
to
the ones you
13
just
before
heard.
it finds some real
12
resistance.
1290 was the area that stopped it on Friday in the pre-market before we really kind of fell out of bed here. Now it seems to be returning right to that area. It's only 12 cents away.
Yeah, and there's the price ladder is showing there's a large concentration of sellers at 13. So I think that if we do end up getting that price you just mentioned there and we pop over it, I think 13 is going to come down hard on the price.
Suggest cutting sooner. We could see the labor
I'm
market
not speaking about myself in the
weaken,
third
and
person.
that would also, suggest cutting sooner. On the other hand,
ONMD penny stock going for $1. This looks to be the only thing that's really moving right now.
remain strong, then we would probably be moving later. So I think a range of possible paths are possible.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass.
We
on
might
this.
pay
I'm-
taxes.
None of these numbers looking that great.
None of them look great. I'm
doing-
frustrated with
calculating the
my
long-term.
platform
If we
here.
need to
I
get
really
the
don't
money.
want to compound
We
my
only have,
problems.
like,
I'm probably
28
just
grand
gonna
in losses.
probably just gonna
So
pull
a
it
couple
back a
weeks
little
ago,
bit.
the losses were a little higher.
LAES
It
looks
worked.
like it could go
But
to
now we
4.
have
I
way
don't
more
know that
gains, so I
if
gotta
it's going to
finesse
hold
it.
up there.
Fuck.
But it looks like
Find a
that's
way to
the
get
next
the down payment
support
and
area
net
for
out the gains and
LAES.
losses.
This year, you have commented on this idea of.
Would be nice if we
tariffs
recaptured
set by
VWAP,
the
though,
executive
and went
branch.
higher.
So are tariffs in
That'd be
your
nice, too.
lane, but a huge fiscal spending by the Biden
Double
administration?
check on these
not in
space
your lane?
names.
Explain to the committee
Starting to see
why
some
you
more
chose
turn red here. Looks like
the
Rocket Lab and
February of
as
21
Satellogic
outspoken
both turning red here. Not too badly, but they were once green and they are not now.
Policy of tariffs. We don't
Uh,
it's not our job, and
just
we just wouldn't-
general
just
general
as we wouldn't
positivity in the
comment
space
on
names
the
today.
reconciliation package that you're
Intuitive
working
Machines
on.
even is up over
Comment
3%.
details. What our job is inflation, keeping inflation under control, and also keeping maximum.
All right.
employment.
Well,
Government policies have what appear
here we
to
go
be
with Pony AI.
short of the
Still
implications.
making some higher prints.
Implications for that then
Taking out some of these sellers. There's 1285, 15 cents away from 13.
You know my views on price stability. I think it's a first among equals in your dual mandate. I've argued for that. I've introduced legislation to make the dual
And
mandate
looks
Yeah,
like
rip it up a little
NA
bit.
the sole mandate.
is
We
doing
talked
NA
about that
things.
before, but I was very curious
Fed
about your
Hammock
thoughts
made
on
some
reversed.
comments
Couldn't
too.
get to
Former
VWAP
President
underneath the
Cleveland
65 EMA
Bank,
again.
Bank,
Probably going to go lower.
Bank
I'd say the next support
quote that I read
probably
from
be
last
about
fall. She says,
1940 to
"I think that
1950.
maximum employment
Even
is
then,
the
don't
maximum
wanna
level
touch
of
it."
employment consistent with price stability."
Yeah, I would
In other
stay away
words,
from
she
that.
elegantly ties
Gurr,
that
this actually
together,
has done a
that price
pretty
stability
decent
is
job
what
of
you
holding
can
its
have
VWAP
control
so
over
far.
rather than, all these other factors.
All right,
that
INM
govern
at the
employment
65
between
EMA.
legislative and executive branch.
It's
What's
just
your
where this
thoughts
one
on
has
that?
to reverse, or it's thank you very much, good and goodbye.
Thank you very much. I yield back. The gentleman from
Nectar
New York.
still showing signs of
Recognized
curling.
for 5 minutes.
VWAP is at 1952, and the price is at 1842. So this has a real potential of getting at least back up to the VWAP. Don't know if it's going to recapture it, but if it does, then I'd be looking at $22.
Funds rate at 4.25% to 4.5%. While I was
BBAI trying to recapture
by the decision
480.
to hold rates steady, I was surprised by the committee's revised forecast since March, which represented a decrease.
That was a crazy move in CDTX
Hey,
this morning.
Uber again.
Or actually,
AMT,
that's,
JP
that was,
Morgan,
after
52
hours.
high.
Just a sudden run up to $70.
And an uptick
That was crazy.
in the unemployment rate.
Yeah, I think she's the
to
one. This is Miss
4
Velasquez.
Came all,
Remember
was that
last time?
on anything? That
To
looks like
explain
that's
the
just.
incoming data that the committee has seen since March
Let me see.
Yeah, I don't think
to
so.
make these adjustments.
That's just after hour
So,
shenanigans.
First of all, these are individual. This is not a committee forecast. These are just
Yeah,
individuals
it's-
setting
I
their own
mean,
personal.
It's funny because
forecasts, and,
yesterday
we
they
don't
did
bless those as
an
committee.
offering.
But I think
in the
people
after
are
hours.
looking at the incoming data and
So
having a
they
range
did
of
the offering.
factors
It goes down to the 65 EMA on the 5-minute,
the central
and then it
tendency
just gets
you'll
bought
see
back up,
numbers
goes
of when
sideways, and then it
those are the
rips
medians that you're
into
talking
the end
about.
of the
I think so. Inflation
after-hour session.
is projected to have moved up because of what we've seen, particularly from tariffs. And I think
I
if
guess
you look
that
at
the influenza
forecasters, you'll see very much the
drug
same
that
thing.
they're
And
working on
what
is
data are you looking for?
really that great.
Well, we look at the incoming data on. We look at our own forecast and we ask.
All right,
ourselves, what's
so
the-
INM hit that 65 EMA, trying to turn around.
Forward-looking, a forecast is a
Same thing with
prediction of what's
Nano
coming.
Labs, even though I don't
Thank
want to
you.
touch it. Just
In its
mentioning it.
statement, the committee announced
Nectar
that it will
is
continue to
getting back
monitor
up to its
implications of
VWAP,
incoming data
almost at
and
it,
adjust the
which
stand
has
of
got
monetary
value of
policy as
1949.
appropriate. Some analysts predict 2 rate cuts by
That's
the end
going
of
to be a
the
resistance
year are
area.
still on the
BBAI getting support
Is
from its
this a
VWAP,
fair
but
and
it
accurate
still would like
assumption?
480. I
And
don't
what
know if it's going to
incoming
get it.
data will the committee need to see
Circle
to
going
consider
lower
these
still.
cuts?
What will actually happen with rates is going
Pony AI at 1295 it hit before putting in what may be a reversal candle. We still have a minute left to see if that's the case,
a
but
significant majority of the committee.
I think I'd be
but
thanking
also there's a pretty significant
Hey, yo, isn't
market
this
gods
cool?
for giving me
Significant majority.
It says
1295
2,
for
4,
just for a
6,
trade
8, 10.
today.
Which,
That's
sorry,
my
which
pizza
ticker?
position.
Sorry.
What that means is
Pony?
that
Okay.
each of those
And then
persons
high
who
ticker
wrote
going
down
crazy,
they
but then
could cut
Tesla
interest
dropping and
rates,
SPY tweaking.
later this year. They think that there's some state of the world where inflation doesn't
Are
prove
getting
to
a
be
little
as
bit of
high.
a
They
reversal
think
happening
that
here after
some
getting
combination
close
of
to
those two things
13.
will turn out to be more likely than not
I
appropriate.
think this would be a good,
policy
you know,
rates, subject
profit
to
taking area, but you
Oh,
guys
they-
trade how you're going to trade. Don't let me
You know,
tell you
the
what
story
to do.
has been evolving, and our thinking has
Tesla is
been
getting
evolving,
worked
and
right now. Again,
continue.
Boeing stopped. Dollar's still
INM
going down,
trying
though.
to
That little
reverse.
currency thing.
Chair
Iranian
Powell,
president says Iran will
although
not
Looking for
violate
that
ceasefire
breakout
unless
for
Israel
Nectar
does.
over the
tentatively
VWAP. Looks like
rates
that
in the Middle
is
East,
certainly
the
possible.
situation still has the potential to open global and energy markets, especially if the
What's going to happen
ceasefire
here
is
with
broken.
LAES? Are we
While
going to get
at this
another
point,
rejection at
Iran is
VWAP,
seen
or are we going
as
to break through it
unlikely
this
to
time?
close the Strait of
About 15 minutes ago,
Hormuz as the
LAES
system
lost the
could.
VWAP and has been trying to get back over it ever since.
How is the Fed assessing the current situation
Looks like
and
410
incorporating those
has a
assessments
little bit of a
as it considers future
wall there,
adjustment
but
to
it's only until
economic
415 where
projections
the sellers really
and
start to show up. So
monetary
not sure there's a
policy.
whole lot more left in
I think it's too early
LAES.
to-
There would have to be a
to
large
know what
volume
any
of
the
buyers
economic
coming in to
implications might be,
take
and
out
we
all
do not
those
wanna
sellers there.
speculate. Like everyone else, we are of course watching the situation.
Izzy mentioning the Uber 100 calls.
And Chair Powell, after reviewing the economic data
I'm seeing that there was like
the meeting last
3,200
week,
bought
it seems
here
to me that the committee is
for Uber.
indicating that we could be
32 of
headed
those
for a
100
situation
calls.
where inflation
Those expire in
accelerates
July.
while unemployment rises and growth
SRFM
become more
is
sluggish.
recapturing
In this
230.
scenario,
Still low
it's
volume
not
though.
the Fed's dual
Uh,
mandate of
Nectar is
maximum
really
employment
close to
and
its
price
VWAP.
stability
INM
in
still trying to
tension
reverse.
with one another.
Nanolabs
In
still
this
hanging out at
scenario,
65
How
EMA.
does the Fed balance these priorities?
Yeah,
in
Izzy,
order
I don't
to
see
keep
those. I don't have those as being aggressive, just kind of in
We're
size.
not facing that right now, and that isn't really our forecast.
Those were
We will
also
face
bought
such an
bought
issue
as
in
part of a
serious way, but
spread.
If that does happen, then what we
Those
do is
July
we look at the
100s.
goals and we see which one of them is farther from its goal.
Take care
Yeah.
of yourself,
Still
C-Dub.
dropping.
Take care, C-Dub.
Not the greatest day here today, no question
No,
about it.
it's been a very slow day. Hopefully, just our tone and demeanor has been kind of giving people pause, not jump into anything. Just don't want to get anybody trapped in anything. There have been some good trades, but they haven't been very numerous.
Vice Chairman of the full
What's
committee,
DFH?
Heising of Michigan's recognized for.
Maybe there's something that'll set up later.
Dream Finder.
Just don't force anything today. It's probably just not that kind of day.
Pony is ripping here.
See, there are some good ones like Pony. And then look, it went over 13. How about
You had
that?
said in January 29, 2025, quote, "We don't know what will happen with tariffs, with immigration, with fiscal policy, and with
How about
regulatory
that?
policy."
Took out those sellers
We need
there.
to let those policies be
Got some
articulated
profit in-
before we
at
can
around,
even begin to make a
around
plausible
the
assessment
highs
of what their
near
implications
13.
for the economy will
Uh,
be. This is no different than
let's see what
some
happens with Pony
policy
now.
changes
Wouldn't be
in the
surprising if this came in.
administration. However, December 18 of 2024,
Looks like LAES still trying to push back over VWAP.
paraphrasing, that
Hopefully
some
we can get
Federal
some kind of
Reserve
move like
officials
that
began to
got with
incorporate
Pony.
preliminary conditional estimates
SRFM,
on fiscal
that's
policies
still hanging
might
out above
impact the
230 for the
economy
time being, but the
forecast.
volume is just awfully
This
low.
seems inconsistent, and I sidebarred with the chair to say, okay, did I hear this correctly? His question. and
Basically, the ones
per
we
your
covered this
answer.
morning, NA,
What I heard
INM,
is
and
that
Nectar, they're just not
there
doing
was
a whole lot.
belief
Nope. And this
that the
SRFM, which
IRA
hasn't
would
broke
not be
down, just has no
inflation-driven,
strength and can't even
but
really
that
break out.
tariffs could be, therefore,
Yeah.
suddenly you. and
Volume's
others
just not happening with a lot of these
commenting
today.
on tariffs, and
Kind of makes me wonder
for
where
the
we at
institution,
volume-wise
I
with the
know you
SPY.
try
Is
to
it
be
still under 10?
consensus-driven. Why
SPY
are
is
there
just kind of
No.
holding sideways here. Tesla is really moving to the
policy
downside
assumptions
here.
Forecasting, when you yourself said that fiscal policies need to be articulated before the FOMC.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, you know
make
what?
a plausible
Actually, I think I
assessment
want
of
to take
their
a look and see where this is at, because this is
implications,
getting
what
close
those
to
would
a,
be.
I think, a
And
support
I
area
if
that I
there's different
mentioned.
participants having different assumptions that would
I think
render
I may have said,
the
what,
summary
There is a
340?
NATO
projections
meeting, but there's no
biased,
headline.
For Tesla?
meaningless,
Yeah, I'm not sure if I did or not. Maybe it was
useless,
Yeah, there's SPY now
But
dropping. I
anyway,
don't
if we
know
continue to
what's
go
going
lower
on.
here, you do have that,
Wouldn't it make
It could be
more
some of the
20-day SMA
Iran
at
stuff or something else,
330.42.
but
to make
That's like over.
yeah, the
that's
currency is
almost
all,
$11
ever
away,
since
though.
you called it out.
We don't want that low.
Not,
It's like
shouldn't be
unreal. Like,
just
look
don't
at
be
this
surprised if it
strength.
gets
Look
down.
at the yen, the pound. Even oil's dropping now, but like,
Here's
look,
the
euro is
Meanwhile-
rocketing.
Great question. That really, when the summary of economic
Pony
projections
AI
was
is still above
designed
13.
and put into effect,
BBAI tried to get back
the
over
way it works is
480,
that
got
individuals are free to
rejected.
make whatever assumptions they want, and they do disclose them. They disclose
Yeah,
them
it
in
seems
their
like Pony
speeches
has
and things
been
like that.
the only
So
one
there'll
that's
be
done
situations
really
where
well
some
today.
people incorporate
Looks like
something
Nectar
others
is
don't.
finally going to make a move over its VWAP, though.
We
That'd
try
be
to
great.
transparent about
BBAI
it.
made a pretty
So I
good
will go to
move.
the bathroom
You're right.
with flying
You're right.
lines.
You're right.
Good luck.
BBI
Watch
is
those
fine.
currencies.
And
Yeah,
okay,
euro's the
it looks
highest
like
since
we might
October
get Nectar to
21
go
right
here.
now.
It's
This
over
is
its
breakout
VWAP. Here we
of
go.
euro. You
Perfect.
guys
Right into
remember
that
breakout on the
consolidation
pound
just
too.
before the open.
So something's going on in currency
stuff.
land. That's probably gonna
$20
be
break
a
here
movement.
might send it
So
on
watch
that.
out for that.
I was
Wherever
just
those
thinking
go,
that $20 is going to be
follow
the next spot to
eventually if it
watch
keeps
for.
going
That
at that
might end
pace.
up. You're right. I think that could end up taking this thing higher. Do see some resistance at 20. I don't think it's quite 21, but it's in the high 20 handle.
Auditing the Fed and a number of other
Almost
things that
21.
have gone on. I've got here a brief moment. I do feel like I need to touch on interest rates. Not to be a shock, you asked how the family
House,
business was doing
finished
back in
speaking?
Michigan.
you still
Families
doing that?
involved in sand and gravel and aggregates and construction and things like that. It's been strong.
Looks like we are still holding above that 604.32.
On that, what's happening? But I mean, I think there's
Nectar
no
got
recession.
rejected
That's
at
been-
VWAP,
that's been
pulled back underneath it.
established. There's no hyperinflation, or certainly not as what some
BBAI back over 480.
Yet there seems to be higher than expected, or certainly desired interest rates for many of us, and
That's
I'm
all that
curious
looks good at the moment.
how high interest rates they hurt Americans who are paying car loans, credit cards.
I might get go
Just
get
this
a
morning,
bunch of errands done today
FA
with the way that this
Pulte
market's
asking for
trading.
lower interest rates, which would obviously impact home
Looks like
buyers
Pony
as well.
popped up to 1320.
So what is it that's keeping, in your mind, the Fed from what many of us believe is the right thing to do, which is to lower some interest rates, and by the way, match what the Bank
What
of
are you gonna
Canada
do with
and
your day with how
central
slow
banks,
this
Swiss
is?
central banks,
I'm gonna try and figure out what the hell
Do
is
the
going
hard
on.
work.
That's what I'm gonna
No
do.
one's ever
I'm
going to
try
tell
and
you, you
actually
know
fix
what,
some problems
it's easy.
because I am
The reality
absolutely
is,
tired
if you're
of
putting in
fighting
the
this
work,
every single day.
it's not. But there are
I'm
rewards
also
to
going to
what you do.
exercise
Let's
because
get
I'm
after it.
extremely frustrated right now, and this is the worst possible time to be making new trades. Is when you are extremely frustrated. That is where I'm at.
And that will compound frustration.
Yep.
Right.
So I think I'm
If you
probably
just
just
look
gonna hold off.
in the rearview mirror and
I'm
look at
pretty
the
much
existing
I'm
data
pretty
that
much
we've
all
seen,
trading.
you can make a
Well,
good
we can just say you had a flat
call
day.
for us to be at a neutral level.
Yeah, I'm actually up with some of my swings. That's I guess the only positive here,
There we
but
go.
it's just
The reason we're
I'm
not
just
is the
I don't want to be like
forecast.
this. I really don't want to be
All
frustrated, and I
professional
am.
forecasters that I know of on the outside
Sucks.
and the Fed
Absolutely
do
sucks.
expect a meaningful increase in inflation over the course.
We will have better
When I
days
said we
ahead.
weren't gonna talk
Yeah, we
about,
will. That is for sure.
tariffs and inflation, that was to
And the same
say-
people
And,
when they
on the
issue
plus side,
$4
glass
trillion
half full side that I like to
also
talk about all the
said
time. At
that
least it's 8
inflation
degrees
will
cooler
not
here
go up, so
today.
he could keep
Was
rates at zero.
yesterday.
Happy to continue.
Because
That's
yesterday
our
was
problem,
absolutely
sir.
insane.
We don't trust
Lynn
these
mentioning Micron. They've got earnings
That's-
tomorrow
you guys
after
get
the
it?
close.
Mr.
Like
Powell, we
LES
don't
is trying to
trust
get back
you.
over VWAP here.
That's
It's
the
currently
point.
above
We
it.
get what you're
Yeah,
saying,
tomorrow
but
is
you
the close
guys,
for Micron.
last time, $4 trillion. Y'all said it's coming down.
What a
And y'all
nice
said, don't
run this
worry.
has been on. It looks like it's
We're
about to
so
open
confident
across
it's
the wall.
coming down. We're going to keep rates at zero.
You know, I
Do you see the dilemma?
kind of feel like this thing's going to come back in. With the run that it's been on, the RSI being extended, the earnings print could, you know, if it doesn't impress, or if there's anything that's not favorable to investors, this thing is probably going to come back into its 20-day estimate. I think 111, 110 might be about the area.
I was just going to say, what do you think? 115, 111, 110, pretty much in the same area right there.
Yeah, and if you look at the stock has had a hard time in last year and going into this year getting over the 200
City and
SMA.
banks again too. The
And
spies
that,
have to get back up to the
area
higher
that
level.
we had
Remember,
hard time
anything
getting
above
was
here is still
about
breakout,
that,
new advance,
110,
new high.
111 area.
Bonds are just following along with the yen. I am worried about the
That would be
currencies,
where I would
but for now, market's
anticipate
dodging
sport
it and
kicking
see if the
in
dollar
you
could
do
get back up.
pull back in Micron, but fantastic move. This thing pretty much almost 2x from the April 7th low.
Yeah.
Fantastic if you picked it up.
Hit a 5-year low. Are you familiar with that?
It's been beating its
Not sure
earnings
exactly what
recently.
statistic you were
Pretty
referring
good.
to.
Okay, I don't know. There was all this articles
And
It
about
hasn't
Oh,
been
SMH
pretty good.
chips.
It's these names this morning. Well, it looks like INM is back over its VWAP, so that's encouraging. See if it can get to 22. It looks like 20s. I think I said that, or 20 or 21. There's some work that has to get through here, some levels before it gets to 22. But 22 is just the level that I had marked off when we were in the pre-market. Still think we could get there if we continue with this
Intel, more
volume
chips,
thing.
everything. Small cap, shitty chips to big chips. Unity, high ticker is almost
Wolf
fully
with the
gassed. The
U,
SPY's
this
not
is
moving, but
moving higher here
you're
today by
getting
almost
something.
about
You might get the
10%.
breakout
This is actually
move.
right
We got
back
Euro
into a
close,
consolidation
actually, in
area.
an hour. So let me
Wolf
get
with
the
the U,
breakdown.
huh?
I
Let me
think
take
there
a
are two
look at
things
this.
going on quickly. One is just there's a
And
longer
we are
run
past
short
that 10:30
Dow 23
timestamp,
green,
so
7
we are
red.
gonna see volume,
NASDAQ
dry up
81
even
green,
more
20
now,
red.
as if it has
SPY
doing that.
357
20-day
green,
SMA
144
is
red.
at just a penny under $4.
Best thing we can do for the housing market
I really like that
is to
$4
restore
level.
price stability.
Wow, especially going
What
backwards.
does that mean?
So that
Lower the
All right,
rate.
Wolf, gotta get over that $4 mark today.
What are this? We're gonna fix it with price stability. Just
That'd be
saying
great.
shit that
That'd be great.
sounds
Nice and
smart.
O
No.
is spiking right now.
No.
Didn't this have a bankruptcy
Lower the
issue?
rate so we
I
can sell
don't
our
recall. Look
houses
at that one in a second.
and
Just
not
wanna
have
also
to
point out
worry
Wolf with
about
the U
paying
also had a
triple in
nice reversal
interest.
candle off the 500
You know
and
that, bro.
50-day SMA
I'm buying a
yesterday.
good deal
So
of a
this one's
house,
looking pretty
and
interesting.
fucking the
Wanna see
interest
us
rate is
recapture that
higher
20-day
than
SMA.
fucking the
Wolf
Babylonians
with an
and
O.
shit. What is
Yeah,
this,
Wolf with an
Jerome?
O. The
We
company
spend more to
plans on
fund
filing
you
for
and
bankruptcy
Janet
by July
Yellen's
1.
fucking decisions than the
They're
entire
trading up by about
military of the
16.6%
United
right now.
States of America,
Ah, okay.
including every single freedom to read.
So, is that short interest real? It is real. Holy cow. 74% of the float shorted.
Well, we're gonna fix it with
This is
price
squeezing
stability.
like
What?
crazy.
What is the difference? And honestly,
Fuck does that
I
mean?
want to learn here. And
Crazy,
I'm
crazy.
Sure people
All
listening
right.
to this wanna
I'm
learn.
not
What is the
not part of my
difference
plan to
between
trade bankrupt stocks though, or
demand-driven
stocks
rent
of companies that are going
inflation,
bankrupt.
Nope, you all have fun with that one. That's something I'm
What is
gonna
that? How
avoid.
do I communicate that to the public?
I know there's people out there that can trade that. Do your thing.
Supply-driven
Kill it.
versus
Yeah.
demand-driven
I will
rent.
just watch.
Those are not terms that we use particularly often.
What's
but
supply-driven
right.
formula? You guys
that would mean that
else is looking
that there's
good,
not enough
sure.
supply to meet demand, but at the same time.
No,
we also
Pony
need to
AI
demand
still grinding higher.
ASTS got our
It'll make
50
sense
prints
when you don't have to read your
Really? All right.
in the regular session, not even in just the pre-market or after-hour session. Regular session, 50 prints happened on ASTS.
I'm
You
being
got
serious,
52
y'all.
in the regular
We're
session,
talking
Yep.
didn't you?
about a housing
Nice.
crisis that is
Actually
getting
stopped
worse
right at 52.
right now because we're not paying
Well,
attention.
I have no
to
idea where this
future
ends up going.
instability
Another
at the current
round.
rates, and you can
I'm
raise your
surprised that it
eyebrows
didn't
and-
I
go,
would've
but
thought,
literally
by
every
now we
single
would've,
30
pulled
second,
off
1
of
minute,
this.
5
I was
minute.
gonna say,
so
at this
elevated,
point, we
which
could
is why I
probably
thought
use a
NA.
pullback here.
That was the Bitcoin one.
I would
today,
think
yeah.
so.
Being impacted by
I would
the
think,
current
given that we're at
together,
86 RSI, we've
that I do feel
broken
like
out
this
from the
could be
trend line
long-term effects.
at the 40.
on the
Actually,
housing
it's like more of
crisis.
like the $43 area. But you have the trend line on there for ASTS too, right? That started back.
On the chart, that's busted.
Intel
Oh, okay,
and
yeah.
Bud
This
and
is a
Yalla.
trend line back from February of 2021 going through the high of August last year.
Chairman Powell,
We
you
just
see where I'm
broke that
coming from. You see
last
where I'm
week.
coming from. It is impacting future
Broke it
supply of
last
housing,
week.
right?
Almost back tested it as support yesterday.
Really?
Got it. Went
Sadly,
higher.
I agree
and
with
we
her
are
at that
losing
last
ground.
one.
Actually,
who's also
we got
the
$50
How would you say
yesterday.
that the rates do not
financial
impact
technology
long?
and
I guess
artificial intelligence
he's
right
looking
now.
at it like a
Got
fucking
$50 yesterday.
economist.
We're just getting icing.
Kyle's acting like a lawyer.
Being with us today. I want to dive
All
into
icing
two
here.
actions
50-41,
the Fed's
yeah.
recently taken to get a little additional color on
So
yesterday.
if you held on to
the Fed
ASTS, I
announced,
know I can't
that
see chat right now,
reputation
but if you
no
did
longer
that,
be a component in
great
banking
job. You are
exams.
absolutely
I'm
killing
just
it.
saying,
That's
anytime though,
Viewed,
If any of you
Pony
ever
AI
get
now
into
coming,
a fight
back
with your
down,
significant
looking for
other,
13.
like especially
Not
like a
me,
major
but
fight, and she's like, "What are you gonna do?
I don't
How are you
support
gonna?"
that.
As always, we'll
fix
start with the
this?" All you
executive
gotta
summary
tell
from
her
today's
is,
lead up
"Okay,
morning
so
note.
do it by
If you would like to
nice
review the
price order."
analysis supporting these
Getting
conclusions
back
and to see if you need to make any changes in your portfolio to remain on the right side of market risk, or to get on the right side of market risk to the extent you haven't been following our KISS and Dr. Mo signals, you need to be a client of 42 Macro. So today's key macro question is, should investors sell now and raise cash
Y'all
due
don't
to the
see
U.S.
that
entering the
18 plus on
Israel-Iran
Pony
war?
830.
Our answer?
Here's the candle.
Per our
Jack,
June 13th
Bradley
lead-off
Frizzle
morning
is a
note,
peach baby.
does the
So
prospect
some
of
of you
total
who are
war in the
really
Middle
not
East
used
mean you
to
should
this,
sell
you
now
gotta
and
watch
raise
your
cash?
ears.
No. Investors that sell in a knee-jerk response to geopolitical developments are rarely rewarded over investment horizons worth considering for most investors. In our view, investors should only sell and raise cash for KISS and Dr. Mo's signal that is the path of least resistance for maintaining the positively skewed return distributions that they deliver to 42 Macro client portfolios. Iran vowed retaliation and escalated strikes on Israel.
The 65 EMA. But if worse comes to worse,
looks
you
like
just tell her we have to
14,
achieve
15,
price
or 14
stability.
even is the
Okay,
bigger
and
level
if
to
she
get
doesn't
through. We get through that, I
understand,
think we
refer
could
her
end
to
up
the
seeing
Federal Reserve.
a visit to
They
that
say
trend
he'll
line. I
explain
think there's
it.
also a bit of an area at 17 as well, maybe just underneath it. Lots of resistance to get through, but that trend line does look like it's
Yeah, bro, DJT
certainly a possibility in the future.
Yeah.
Announced the buyback yesterday.
We'll see if it can
but
hold
just
this
took a
area
stick.
here too, because 1250
Never
area.
hold.
Maybe that'll be some support here on this back test. Okay, good stuff there on Pony.
FR coin still going. DJT 3%. It could be something. That's big.
Good price action is not applicable for NA. This continues to go lower. Looking for the 65 EMA, the value of which I have at 1695.
What I do see is a very significant change in the tone. And
iBio also looking pretty bad. Looks like that could break down at any moment. 85 cents is the support area. I think if we lose that,
Mobileye and Oracle, watch. If Mobileye goes crazy, keep an eye on Intel. And then SFM sprouts on the low.
Our view is that
see if staples go
still
down.
hanging out up here. I thought we were going to get more of a pull. 1324.
Coinbase next leg higher.
banks are free to provide banking
What's
services
Bitcoin doing? Okay, Bitcoin right here back at 106 about. 105.5.
350 for Coinbase. That was the high from December of last year. So certainly thinking that we're going to hit 350 probably this week, if not today.
Housing sector once again, but give you a little free.
Funny,
just
housing
can't
has
deny
came up a lot. You might hear
I just can't
about
deny
that.
how
They usually do not bring up
crazy
housing
this
like
week,
this. And you
is,
guys
but
realize
also
like
same
housing
time,
on the
it
CPI
seems like this
has been
trajectory is
helping you
gonna
out.
take it right up
It's
to
been
350,
going down.
and then we can
So some people
do
think
that
housing
as a
disinflation
area.
would
I
balance
just don't
out
see anything pulling us
inflation
back
based on
until we hit
tariffs.
350.
But very odd. I don't know. We've listened to a lot of these. They don't usually come out the gate swinging about housing this many times. Like, so we've heard about housing already in the first 20 minutes of this. A lot
BDAI
more than any of the other
looking
ones.
for 5. Coming up to the high of the session at 494. Lots of sellers between 495 and $5 that it has to get through. So there might be a big volume move coming in BDAI if there's any whales willing to take these sellers out.
That's very good news.
It actually looks like this might break out right here.
It's been stickier than other parts of inflation. So
just need that big jump in volume to take out what looks like about 60,000 worth of shares, maybe actually more than that, 70 to 80,000 if I consider everything between 95 and 95.
Still going to have a housing shortage.
Take care of yourself, Jane.
What
Take care, Jane.
I think is leading to the reduction?
Thanks for trading with us.
I just think it took time. So the thought is when you would think that
EYEN continuing to move higher here.
It would take 1 year or 2 years for a lack of growth in rents to show up, lack of growth in housing prices. It turns out it takes.
Looking to see what's
okay, SPY starting to
setting
work
up.
too. That's been 5-6 minutes of
Pony
pressure,
might come back
all
in here,
to the
but
upside.
last time I did that,
Currencies and the bonds are a little weird today, but
tired.
equity risk on mode.
So that's
just doing its own thing now, and a lot of things are giving it that lift.
But I'm happy to say.
Yeah, again, Intel chips. We were just calling them out there. And then now airlines are chilling out. UAL's on the low. They all benefited off the low.
Yeah, I got
earlier,
nothing.
and
I
now
feel
they're
really
starting to
terrible. I feel really terrible here. I got nothing for you guys. I don't see anything great other than that Home Depot swing.
Laughing like
We can look at other stocks that folks are asking about until something actually happens. But for now, it seems like, well, here's what I'm looking at. I got Pony that should be coming back in, but don't know if it will. I got BBAI that just put in another high. Looks like this is still trying to go for 5, but don't know if it will. You got SRFM, which is still dealing with 230. It's trading above it right now, but does it go higher? Don't know if it will. iBio, 85 cents. I already outlined this one. 85 cents is the support. We lose that, it's going to 70. NKTR, still looking for $22. As long as it holds view up, got about a little less than 2 minutes left in this candle. So we'll see what ends up happening there. INM trying to turn positive. Don't know if it will. NA going down to 65 EMA, might reverse there. Don't know if it will. Kind of love saying that this morning. But that's kind of what I'm looking at.
NKTR, of all the ones that you just mentioned here, NKTR looks the best with the volume the way it is. Take care of yourself, Big Bear Hug. I'll be all right. Don't worry about me. I'm sorry for showing frustration. I'm normally pretty good at it, but have a good one.
Yep. Take care, Big Bear Hug. Give the market a Big Bear Hug for me if you could. I want to see this thing cool off some more.
I was going to say, I don't know, 13. 606.69 is your pre-market high there. We're currently at 605.20. It does look like this wants to push through that high.
Yeah,
how's the volume? Are we not even, let's see.
We've put in a high.
Okay, 17 mil.
Not seen since February. So we're getting back to February prices now.
The kind of stories I'm reading.
Again, a pullback here off of NKTR.
More volatile and less reliable. That's not gonna. It'll make it more
Looks
difficult.
like a lot of these names are just
private
pulling.
sector and for you and for us. And I don't like.
NA going lower.
I agree. Thank you. I appreciate that it's not your role to comment.
Robin Hood next leg higher through 80. Jay, that's on the way to your 90 spot.
Critical role in ensuring price stability.
Wow, look at this thing go.
Reducing inflation. I have had conversations with, quite recently, just a week ago, with a C-suite executive of a major global retailer who informed me, because I asked, why aren't we seeing the impact of these tariffs?
Good, already 11% away from 20-day SMA.
Because it takes
if it goes to 90, this thing is going to be a pretty good short.
Please let me interrupt this message to remind you.
Take care of yourself,
in the beginning
Rooster.
of the year, they said it will arrive in May, the second quarter.
AMD, this
and
actually made a nice pullback to the VWAP.
We
might retry that 138
so back
spot.
to our sponsors from the government. Thank you.
I like that it got over 133 and the 500-day SMA in a single day here.
FOMC cycle, and that's a typical thing that they'll say, especially the retailers, that what's being sold
now if we
is in
can
inventory
continue to trade above that, I mean, this thing is.
And it just isn't showing up yet. So
I don't want to say we're going to be facing 200 with AMD, but man,
but I want to be honest.
give enough time, I think it's certainly going to happen.
Going to be passed through to the consumers. We just don't know, and we won't know until we see it.
Mr. Wonderful
time.
here. My friend Howard Marks
Right,
is the
BBAI,
co-founder of Activision,
still
the
hanging out
gaming
above,
giant that was
What
just
happened here?
Had me very
OCUL,
concerned with that.
OCUL, Ocular Therapeutics. This actually ramping here. Let me see if there was news for this. Monday. This would have been yesterday. No.
Losses they have to suffer with the increase of tariffs on relatively.
I don't see any breaking fresh news or anything on this. This working on 13.5% here though. Nice little formation here. OCUL.
I don't see any news.
Yeah, me either.
Is that your understanding of the potential impacts?
That
There
very
may be
much
news
is
coming,
something that
maybe.
companies will tell you that they
maybe.
do if they
I don't know.
can't.
My
cover the losses on the
understanding
things
is
they
that
tear up, they'll
people
find
will
other
take
ways.
advantage of you if
don't
you
have
let them.
Hold on a second.
So
I
these
got it.
corporations, if they know
High
you
points
guys
also
will
moving.
accept the prices, they're gonna do it.
EYPT,
But then
right?
once they realize people will
No
back
news.
off, why do you think they've all caved?
And finally,
Well,
So yeah, that's how I view it.
indications in the introduction of
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking maybe it's like a biotech theme or something like that.
Well, that's kind of what I was going at.
Yeah.
I was thinking, well, look at another name that's in a similar space, and iPoint is that. But man, when I look at iPoint's chart, this is an inverse head and shoulders that is resolving.
It sure is. We have it marked too.
Wow, we missed this one completely. We should have.
Well,
I mean, because $8 was the spot recently.
being considered to be
That was the entry
imposed on
spot.
future generations by this
Yeah,
particular bill.
neckline here about 7.5.
Would there be a combination?
Now,
Very high
what
debt,
we need to see
very
happen
low
next, if this is
revenue,
going to, continue to
monetary
resolve,
policy
is
could
we need to see
undermine
this
our
go to
ability
10.
respond to the next
But
recession.
there's like a lot of concentration
We
of
faced that issue quite a bit,
sideways action
and
at
we
around
were
9.
of very low
Let's see
interest.
what happens at 9.
You know,
If this
we're
can
kind
get
of
through
up
9 and start making its way
up,
towards 970, 975, this is probably going to resolve higher. I would even go so far to say 1125 would be the level I'd be watching for, or wanting to take profit at on the
I want to go
resolution
back
of the
to
Fed
something
shoulders.
we had some brief discussions about.
I have 1125 marked off from
in September of 2024.
previous years.
With core inflation still being above target and the labor market was
Anyway,
steady at the time.
interesting that those two are kind of moving, but don't.
It
see the
is
news.
actually, yeah. The more I think about it, the more interesting it gets too.
It kind of raised some serious questions.
I'd
about
love
whether
to
or
hit
not
this again. I remember when we finished up with this the first time, we were like, there's going to be another move here for sure.
surprised that it was a full 0.5%.
All right, really quickly here, folks. We do have an all access coming up here in 2 minutes, actually less than that. About a minute and a half here. We're going to be moving over to Dan. 13, we can wrap up here in a little bit. You don't need to start right yet.
Okay.
If there's anything else that you see out there.
Yeah.
Just cycling through all the names that we were talking about this morning. NA still heading lower. Looks like that's going to end up hitting at 65 EMA pretty soon. INM trying to turn around. Nectar lost the VWAP.
Hinge Health, that was the recent IPO. And Zillow, bro, every day.
SRFM still hanging out around that 230. Circle now towards the lows of the regular session. BDAI still hanging out above 480, looking for 5. LAES mingling with its VWAP all morning. Redwire, we talked about that when I had this one up. That one's trying to get back above its VWAP. And then Pony AI finally coming back down off of the 13 level. That is a big reversal candle there. This looks like at the very least it's coming back down to VWAP. Could potentially go lower.
Okay. Any closing words for the group?
Well, folks, sorry it wasn't a more exciting day. Tried to make the best of it as we could. Did get a couple of trades in there, but you know what? Let's just thank the market for what it gave us, and we'll come back tomorrow and see what it provides then, and we'll make some money off that movement. So have a great rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the next show. Bye-bye.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, 13. We will check in with you again tomorrow. Don't forget, we also have 4 more Fed speakers coming this afternoon, so things could change depending on what they say. All right, that is 13. We'll check back in with him. Now we're going to bring on Dan. Dan, what do you got here coming up for us on All Access, brother?
And I didn't want to.
Well, first, I got a lot of love for you. And secondly, I've got Krister Rosen, the chairman and CEO of Jupiter Neuroscience. I'm excited to talk to him today.
Okay, sweet. We're actually seeing a theme there. So I'm curious to hear what he says. Dan, take it away. Can't wait. All Access starts right now.
Do the right thing or not? Yeah, I bring it up because it seems like
Hey, Fingers, and welcome to
right now to kind of do the same thing, make the same move. I know this morning already you've talked a little bit about where you were on inflation right now and kind of what you're watching, but is there any lesson there? I mean, are we in a position where it would be appropriate to do something as big as a 0.5% cut again?
Well, look, as I said earlier, if you just look at the basic data and don't look at the forecast, you would say that we would have continued cutting. The difference, of course, is at this time, all forecasters are expecting pretty soon that some significant inflation will show up from tariffs. Now, and we can't just ignore that. But we're not. We're just saying let's wait and see more. That's all we're doing. And if you will have noticed,
that's all we're doing. Just wait and see.
Written down rate cuts in the
price stability. Visa's on the low. And Boeing again.
So it's just a question.
Yeah, Visa is starting to dump again. You had MasterCard stablecoin shit today. There's still a whole.
Healthcare shouldn't be restrictive. It should help you expand your possibilities. Find
to continue to come down. Here it's forecasted to go up by all forecasters. So, and again, we're not overreacting to that. We're just saying, hey, as long as the economy's strong, we can take a little bit of a pause here. And that's what we're doing. And again, continue to adapt as the data comes in. If we see data that suggests that inflation's not going to produce big increases, that would matter. And if we saw the labor market weakening, that would matter too. But we don't see those things.
What about supply chain? In 2020, that was a big issue, obviously related to COVID. But I know myself and other members, when we're in our districts and we're specifically talking to light manufacturing, there's concerns about the supply chain. Is that part of the data package that you review when you make a decision about where we're headed in the future?
Very much so. I think that's one of the great, well, we'll call it a great thing, but one of the lessons to be taken from the last episode is supply chains really matter. We're watching that carefully. It's too soon to say really on that. We're not seeing it yet, but we could.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you, Chairman. Yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. The gentleman from New Jersey, Scott Heimer, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Powell, as a member of the Intelligence Committee, I'm deeply concerned about the threat of Iranian cyber attacks on our financial system as retaliation for our strikes on their nuclear facilities. In its cybersecurity report last year, the Fed acknowledged that critical infrastructure, including financial services, is at risk with rising geopolitical tensions. Iran has a history of targeting American infrastructure companies and financial institutions and banks, which could obviously threaten and cause economic damage. What actions is the Fed taking now to monitor and defend against Iranian or proxy cyber threats targeting our country's financial institutions?
So we're in touch with the other regulators and the parts of the government that work on cyber, as you know, and we're in touch with the banks to say, for people to be on the alert for
on
things
Hinge,
like
I
that
can.
happen. And also we're on the
we
alert.
just saw it earlier on that
target as
first
well.
pop.
So
I don't know what the
you're right to
volume's
raise it.
looking like or anything.
It's a big issue, and
Do you feel like you have the resources right now to be prepared for that?
yes, I mean I think we do. We've
Hinge is already above volume.
Generally spends a lot on these things.
So Hinge right now by the morning is already traded as much as every other day that it's been around. So it's expecting like 3 million in
Switching
volume.
gears, the president and members of his administration.
But it doesn't trade a lot. It's only done 798,000.
Various name calling for certain decisions you've made. I know that some people worry that the president's
Uber
bullying
again, geez.
will impact your decision making. I know you work together, and I know that and respect obviously your independence greatly. Anything you want to add and give you a chance to reiterate your independence to the American people?
Yeah, I would just say we're focused on one thing, and that is we want to deliver a good economy for the benefit of the American people. That's it. And anything else is kind of a distraction. I don't mean to refer to any particular thing, but we stay focused on that task all the time. We always do what we think is the right thing to do. And, we live with the consequences. And I don't know how else to do the job.
Right, so the name calling and the Mr. Too Late and all that stuff, the American people shouldn't worry about that. You're focused on being independent.
That's what I care about. I care about doing the job for the American people. The things we do matter a lot for people's lives, and that really concentrates the mind. You want to just stay focused on that task. As long as you're sitting in these chairs that we occupy, focus on that task, do what you think is the right thing, and take the consequences.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've previously stated that you view stablecoins as a form of money. Payment stablecoins are already being used for both retail and wholesale payments, as well as for settlement. Recently, this committee passed the Stablecoin Act and the Senate passed the Genius Act, both aiming to establish clear regulatory frameworks for fully reserved dollar-backed payment stablecoins. Given their design to maintain a stable value and be redeemable for U.S. dollars, should the SEC or other regulators explore treating these stablecoins as cash equivalents for accounting or financial reporting purposes?
Let me say, I think it's a great thing that bills are moving. We need a stablecoin framework on that particular issue. I don't have a view for you. I can come back to you on that.
I'd be grateful. Thank you. High rates have also caused, as we've discussed, the cost of paying off our nation's debt to skyrocket. The CBO estimates that interest payments will cost the U.S. $1 trillion in fiscal year 2026 and continue to rise to almost $1.8 trillion by FY
State Farm in the morning.
How do you see us?
Yeah, when pre-market too.
Debt at this rate, and as
Or
the U.S.
that
continues
yesterday.
to borrow, how does that impact
Love
your
you, bro.
decision
Good morning.
to keep or cut rates?
Good morning.
Obviously, foreign countries like Japan, who are significant buyers of our bonds, have started decreasing their purchases significantly. Other internal pressures worldwide are having that impact. Are you worried about this global issue?
Fiscal policy and it really is not our job, and it's not something we take into consideration in making monetary policy. That's really elected people's jobs. And I would add that, for some time now, the U.S. federal fiscal policy has been on an unsustainable path, and I'll limit myself to that.
Last question. Last week you chose to keep rates steady, and families in our state, as you'll hear from a lot of people today, are really struggling with the higher cost of borrowing and putting off bigger purchases on things like cars and homes. As a result, their wallets being crushed by these price hikes and obviously the president's tariffs. What do you have to say to Jersey families who are struggling with higher costs?
Biotech's on that?
How they should forecast themselves for their own families?
We're committed to returning inflation sustainably to 2% and keeping it there in the long run. And what we're doing now is, we had cut rates by 100 basis points, so they've come down quite a bit. And when the time is right, I expect that will continue, and that will depend on economic factors, in the coming months for starters.
Where'd it go? The fuck? Please hold while we connect your Powell. Yeah. Please monitor for details. Where did it go? That was weird.
Which we think are long overdue, considering the
Better
Fed in 2021 indicated that they would soon put out proposals for reform to the SLR and never actually did. However, our understanding is that the proposal being considered this week will not allow for treasuries to be excluded from the SLR calculation. Secretary Bessent earlier this year had argued that such a change could serve as a boost for banks and their ability to intermediate in the treasury market and could potentially pull treasury yields down 30 to 70 basis points. Chairman Powell, do you agree with the Treasury Secretary's comments on the potential positive impact of SLR reform on the Treasury market, and what is the rationale for not excluding Treasuries from the SLR calculation in the proposed rule?
So I agree that when the leverage ratio is binding, it discourages banks from undertaking low margin, fairly safe activities such as mediation in the Treasury markets. So this should encourage more mediation. I don't have a numerical estimate of how much that would matter, but I do think it would matter. I think it was important. I've supported leverage ratio reform for a very long time, since before 2021.
Chairman,
in terms of the structure of the thing, I think we're seeking comment on a particular proposal that doesn't involve exclusion, but we're also asking a question about exclusion.
Mr. Chairman, considering the Fed temporarily excluded treasuries from the SLR calculation during the COVID pandemic, were you aware of any safety and soundness or financial stability problems that arose as a result of that decision? And if not, why was that relief terminated in 2021?
So that was an emergency measure. From the beginning and end, it was an emergency measure. I think, my long-held view is that we should have a permanent measure, and now we're going to. And we have an open board meeting on Wednesday afternoon, and after I finish my hearing on the Senate side, and I'm very much looking forward to putting this proposal out for comment.
Thank you. In March, the Federal Reserve, together with the FDIC and the OCC, announced that they intend to issue a notice of proposed rulemaking to repeal the 2023 Community Reinvestment Act and replace it with the legacy CRA framework. Nearly 3 months have passed since this announcement. What is the status
live
of this
and
project?
also recorded as well?
Well, we're going to do what we said we were going to do. It's just a question of execution, and I think you'll see that coming. This would be so. Vice Chair Bowman has the job of sequencing these things, and that one's certainly coming.
Do you intend to issue a
And
proposal that will be a
so I'll be
clean
looking for
decision
those, and I'll
in
also be
replacement
kind
of
of
that
prompting
rulemaking, or are
you
you
with some
considering
questions as
amendments
we
to the
go and
legacy
asking
rule?
you
I think it's
what do
EU
you see?
ready's
Okay,
retaliatory
so don't think
tariffs
that this is a
to
lecture for
secure
45
better
minutes.
trade deal.
It's going to be kind of more of a discussion.
German
Okay?
chancellor
finally,
Now,
I'd like to
just real
build
quick
off
as we
of
get
that
going,
Maxim's
remember I
muscular
do
approach
post
ahead of
educational
the
content on
supervision
X.
deadline.
There's
Actually,
my
trade
handle
talks.
at James
Do you feel
Boyd
any
CS.
changes could be made to
And
attend
also,
the
as we get started here
presentation,
today,
and do you
our
anticipate
examples, when we talk about
such changes to
investing
the
master
program?
series,
I
we're
do,
talking about
and I
stock
also think,
investing. We're talking about option investing. The options that we tend to talk about are like cover calls, cash secured puts, verticals, debits and credits.
And
Okay,
that hasn't really
we
been the
don't.
model. We've more had people
Sometimes
who
we
are
also
experts
bring
on
up
regulation.
callers and
I think she brings a
synthetics.
particular
We really kind of
ability
focus on
to
5 or
move
6
supervision
main
in a
option
healthy
strategies
direction while
that
also
tend to be kind of
preserving
more
safety and
focused on
soundness,
trading
and that's
direction.
what you mentioned is
okay,
one
to
of the
some
dimensions
extent.
in which I think that will be
So
true.
just know that we
you for your
won't
testimony
typically
today.
talk about
I
iron
appreciate your service to
condors
the
or anything anything like that. We're trying to pick a direction.
Gentleman yields back.
Now, also
Chair
remember that options
recognizes
carry high level
ranking
risk and are
member of our
not
full
suitable for all
committee,
investors.
Mrs. Waters,
The
for 5
information
minutes.
provided here is for general informational purposes only. We'll use the paid money
Thank you very much,
application
Mr.
for
Chairman.
educational
Chair
purposes.
Powell,
Investing involves
I appreciate that
risk, including loss of
despite
principal.
the repeated attacks
Yeah,
by
you're
the
ripping
president
bad
and his
EU
cabinet
news, and then
on
you also, right before that, had a comment
that
on
you
rate
stood your
cuts.
ground and you
But you're
did
just
not
continuing
bow
along,
to
baby.
pressure from
Yeah,
Trump,
Intel's popping. I just saw that on the
especially
hot ticker.
given the current state of economic uncertainty
If we have a
due
couple
to his
calls that could
policy.
actually, someone could want those
Last
shares
week,
prior to
the
expiration.
Fed held interest
If we
rates
sold the
steady.
put, for example,
Afterwards,
that could
you
be
said
we
that you
buy
and
the
other
shares
experts
prior to
continue to
expiration,
expect a
okay?
meaningful
It's not
amount
just
of
at expiration.
inflation due
Make sure
to
you go through
tariffs,
the online course
Trump's
to really make
tariffs.
sure you're clear
You
on
said
that.
that it may
So
take
anytime you have
some
an
time
obligation,
for the
it can happen
tariffs to
prior
work their way
expiration.
through
And
the
also remember
supply
when we talked
chain.
about our
But
examples
that
there,
you
just
found,
that.
and I
Also
quote,
coming up this weekend,
many
we're gonna be in New
companies
York
do
City
expect
doing the market
that
drive,
some or
June
all
28th
of the
at the New
effect
York,
of tariffs
Marriott
through
Marquis.
to the next person
And also
in the
we're gonna be
chain
coming back
and
to New York.
ultimately to the
And
consumer,
actually on
quote,
August
end
8th and
quote.
9th,
So while
that
the
is a two-day
president
event.
may
That's,
try
first day
to
technical
claim
analysis, second
other
day options
countries
strategies.
pay these tariffs,
And also we'll
can
be
you
coming
confirm
to
that
Chicago,
it is
the
indeed
Renaissance
consumers
Schaumburg,
and businesses
and, we'll be
in
there
the
as
United
well.
States
Now, you can
that
go
will
to
bear these costs?
schwab.com/events
So
to get
it
more
can be
information.
anybody
Now,
from the exporter,
what we do
the
is if you go
importer,
to schwab.com/events,
the retailer,
you'll see
the
the calendar for
manufacturer,
the whole
or the
entire year.
consumer that
Usually it's
winds up
inside
paying
3
these
months,
tariffs. In the beginning, it
okay,
will be the
where you can
importer
register
pays
for
the tariff,
event.
but ultimately
It's
it will be
free
spread out
if you're a
among those
Schwab
5,
client.
each of which
So
will
we
try
wanna
very
make sure
hard
you're aware
not
of
to
that.
contribute.
So,
But in the
quick
end,
heads up as we get
tariff will
going
be
here.
paid.
First off, I want to
and,
kind of
you know,
talk
all of
about
the
kind
data
of some of
suggests
this,
that at
what we've
least
seen
some
in
of
the
that
last
will
24
fall. Not
hours.
all of it, but at least
Been
some
a
of it will
busy
fall on
24
consumers.
hours. And I want to kind of start
Well,
with just real
you
quick, if you don't
indicated
mind,
it may take
the
some time
SPX for just a
for
moment.
tariffs to
So
work
if
their
we
way
take a look at
through
this, if we zoom
the supply
in,
chain.
and what I'm going
Would
to do
you
is
elaborate
I want to go
on
down
this,
to like a
including
15-minute chart.
when
I
is
normally
it
don't do this,
that we can
but I
see
want to kind of
negative
show you
impacts
sometimes how
to
that news
inflation
can
from
affect a
Trump's
little bit as
tariff
far as
policy?
what
You know, the things that are
happening.
being sold at retail now, they
this
might have
right
been
here,
put
this
into
shaded portion on the right-hand
inventory
side,
before the tariffs
okay?
in February
Shaded
or
portion
March.
right there,
So
that's
we think we should start to see
aftermarket
this over the
activity,
summer. You know,
okay?
in the
And since
June
we're talking about
numbers
the
and in
SPX,
the
the cash index, we don't have
July
aftermarket
numbers. And if we
activity, that's why
don't,
you
I
see
think
any
we're
candles.
learning here.
Now,
If we
saw
see
futures,
less
okay,
pass through.
You could see.
There aren't historical
Bro, you're
experiences
older
with
than
them
me.
salt
You
people.
don't need to learn
Look
So
at
this.
it may
You're
turn
know
out
what's
that the
gonna
cost will be
happen.
less
What?
or more
Stop the
than we
cap.
think.
Okay,
And I think
my
we're going to be
time,
learning,
two
you know,
Eastern,
we'll get
last 2 hours
a
of the
number
market day.
for
She said,
June.
at least, if prices don't go up, then we'll learn. After we all forecasted they'd already. Remember, May was supposed to have empty shelves. It's now the end of June, and now they're telling you look for the end of August. The
Now,
fuck?
if we look at the
Well,
that was
you
the
know, I've
intraday.
been
If
talking
we look at
with
the,
a lot of my
go back to the
constituents
daily chart and
about
say,
these
how
tariffs.
did the SPX
And
close
The
yesterday?
question that
Well,
comes
the
up is,
SPX, if we zoom in on that,
maybe the
you're going to see that where we closed yesterday with the close, okay?
What about the people that
We closed where the moving averages went back green with that move, and also, so the 10-day and the 20-period moving average went green. Now, at the end of yesterday, could we say at the end of yesterday that we really broke resistance? Couldn't say that, because we weren't above that 60-42 level, okay? So overall, it's like, it was a nice close. The moving averages changed again. Did it break resistance? The answer was no. Okay. The last 2-3 weeks, we've kind of been neutral at best. Okay. And kind of maybe even slightly drifting down. Historically, when you look back on that, was that inaccurate? It was about right. Okay. Now, the difference is today, we're throwing in the question, is today different? That's a question.
Like I'm saying,
Is today different? Is today just another green candle below resistance? We can't say that. Okay, maybe this is different so far. We see when we talk about breakout criteria, we talk about does it open above resistance? It has. Are we closing above resistance? If we close here, it would be. And is it a green candle? The reason why we want a green candle is that we want the closing price above the open. Okay? In other words, we don't want something that opens up higher and then closes lower on the where it opened. That's a red candle. We don't. That's not what we're talking about when we talk about a breakout. So this has been the first time in the last, let's say, if you go back, May 19th. Fast forward to yesterday, June 23rd, where we actually get out of this consolidation range. Now, let's kind of just be crystal clear. Is the portfolio, okay, sample portfolio, is it bullish or bearish? Can anyone give me the answer to that question? Well, if we kind of brought up just the IRA and we said, is the portfolio bullish or bearish? We look at Delta, which is going to tell us, are we bullish or bearish? It's going to give us the individual positions, and if you look down at the bottom, it sums them all up. It says the Delta is 823. Well, the higher that number is, the more bullish the portfolio is, and trying to get that sensitivity to that direction. Bullish. So when we take a look at this, if the VIX falls, okay, and the investor's bullish, they probably like the VIX falling. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's everything is hunky-dory for the VIX trade, which is down $85. You would sure think that these positions would outweigh one bearish trade dropping. Okay, and I'm talking about the VIX. Now, when you take a look at the SPX, so the material difference so far, need to see it close. Can we close above this range? Okay. So we don't know what's going to happen in the next hour. We don't know what's going to happen the next day. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get the direction right over the 2 to 3 weeks to 2 to 3 months. And is the direction right? Hence, the portfolio has been postured bullish. That's very important you understand that. I don't know what's going to happen next hour. I don't know what's going to happen in the afternoon.
Book suggested that the Fed,
but we're trying to actually get, can we get the direction right on the market? Now, when you go back and really look at this, we've been talking about this V pattern, right? V patterns are some of the most bullish type of patterns we see. That's why we've talked about continuation patterns, et cetera, and breakouts, okay? If you look at actually the SPX, it looks like we're kind of right up near resistance. We talked